49ers, Seahawks. Once again, I remember that we did one of these preview shows for 49ers, Seahawks not too long ago. But, this season is flying by. That was late September. That was the weekend that the Giants in baseball clinched the NL West over the Dodgers. The 49ers and the Seahawks played at Levi Stadium on the same day that the Giants clinched. So it was Bay Area sports nirvana right on that day. The Giants ended up winning. The 49ers didn't. Ended up being a really weird and ugly game for the 49ers. So they tried to get their vengeance against the Seattle Seahawks, this time on the road in the Pacific Northwest on Sunday. I just got out of the Bay. It's freezing today. I don't know what all this overcast weather is all about, but I fly up to a part of the country where it's going to be even colder, 42 degrees at kickoff in Seattle, but I don't fly up until tomorrow, Saturday. Then I'm going to find either the Alabama or the Georgia bar, and then I'm definitely finding the Michigan bar to watch Jim Harbaugh try to punch his ticket to the college football playoff at 5 p.m. So I'm going to be out and about with a couple friends tomorrow in Seattle. That should be a lot of fun. We'll have a couple drinks, watch some football, and then we're going to brace for the big game on Sunday. And this one is so interesting because the 49ers never are in position where the Seahawks are trying to play spoiler to them. It's normally the other way around, right? In 2018, the 49ers played spoiler to the Seahawks when they beat them in that late Week 15 game. Then in 2020, the 49ers tried to play spoiler to the Seahawks late in the season. That was Week 17 when they were hosting a game in Arizona, and Seattle had to come all the way down there. Obviously, it didn't work out for the 49ers, but I believe that they led entering the fourth quarter in that game with C.J. Beathard as their quarterback. And then obviously throughout the years, the Seahawks have been good. The 49ers haven't. Russell Wilson is 15-4 in his career against the 49ers. So the tables have turned. It's the Seahawks now who are 3-8 in this game, entering this game against the 49ers who are 6-5. So one team has legitimate playoff aspirations and the other does not. And the tables, the script is definitely flipped now because I don't think the Seahawks have very legitimate aspirations at 3-8, especially with some of the teams they still have remaining to play, and given the way that they're playing. So as I go through some of the keys to this game, you'll see why the Seahawks haven't been winning. And you also have to realize the Seahawks can, especially who's playing quarterback for them, Russell Wilson, they could turn things around really quickly, especially in a one-game scenario. We've seen it happen all around the NFL this year. It's a super unpredictable season. Upsets galore. Margins are extremely tight. Parity has overtaken the league if it wasn't already there before this season. And, in the case of a divisional game like this, a couple small or seemingly small things can swing the advantage into the other team's favor. In Week 4, it was special teams that swung the advantage in Seattle's favor. You can talk all you want about the 49ers quarterback instability, and Jimmy Garoppolo hurt his calf on the very first drive of that game. So he wasn't himself. His condition degraded over the course of the first half. So did his performance, all the way to the point that Trey Lance took over in the second half, and Lance wasn't really ready to perform in that game as far as throwing from the pocket and delivering downfield. But you can talk about that quarterback instability all you want for the 49ers. They still would have won the football game had they not completely screwed up on special teams. It was an utter catastrophe on special teams between Trenton Cannon fumbling the kickoff and Robbie Gould straining his groin muscle during pregame warmups, which led to Mitch Wisnowski missing a field goal and missing an extra point. Between all of those occurrences, the 49ers lost 14 expected points on special teams, and they lost that game by 7. So it just goes to show you that the third phase of the game, something as seemingly small as that, and it's not small at all in reality, something as seemingly small as that can derail your chances in an NFL game and tilt the advantage into the opposition's favor. With that being said, here's key one. Score first if you're the 49ers. That's, I think, what is necessary for them to continue what the dominance that they've shown over the past 3 games. The 49ers are number 2 in the NFL in time of possession over the past 3 games, 38 minutes hogging the ball, 22 minutes for their opponents. The Seahawks, meanwhile, over the past 3 games, are last in time of possession. They've held the ball only 19 minutes in those 3 games. That means that whoever they played has held the ball an average of 41 minutes. Now, the reason the 49ers are number 2 is because one of Seattle's opponents, the one that happened this past Monday, Washington, racked up 43 minutes of possession on the Seahawks. So that's the only reason why the 49ers are number 2 over the past 3 weeks, because Washington is number 1 and they got to play Seattle. The moral of the story is that the Seahawks have not been converting third downs. In fact, the Seahawks are 32.5% on third downs, which is the worst figure in the league. And they haven't been getting off the field on third downs. They haven't even really been getting to third downs defensively, which is a really interesting dynamic if you look at the Seattle defense. On third downs per se, third downs proper, Seattle's defense hasn't been terrible. But because they haven't been getting off the field, that means that they haven't been performing defensively on first and second down. So it's just been the opposite of a good ball control team. Seattle's just been horrific when it comes to ball control, both with their offense and their defense. That means that opposing offenses are hogging the ball. And because of that, my first key is for the 49ers to score first in this game. Because when you lead, you are in better position to exert a ball control formula. And we've seen the ball control formula for the 49ers in their game against the Rams and then against the Jaguars, and then obviously last week against Minnesota. The 49ers have dictated flow from a certain point of the game onward. Against Minnesota, it took a little longer, right? They had to score those 21 unanswered points that sandwiched halftime. But after the 49ers did that, it was relatively smooth sailing the rest of the way. I know that Minnesota always delivered a punch to bring it closer. Special teams, by the way, is something that almost brought Minnesota closer with that kick return. Robbie Gould missed a field goal, but every single time the 49ers were in the driver's seat because they were ahead. So score first and score often if you're the 49ers. Those are obvious keys. You want to do that every game. But I think it's even more important for the 49ers because Seattle just isn't a good football team when it comes to executing third downs offensively. And because of that, the 49ers can establish a massive possession advantage again in this game. You're just looking at two starkly different performers as far as being able to hog the ball. And the 49ers are designed to run at volume, hog the ball, and the Seahawks haven't been able to do that because they haven't been able to run and they haven't been able to convert on those third downs. So if you're the 49ers, you need to perpetuate that advantage. You need to make sure that it doesn't go off in a different direction. And, I still remember in 2017 when the 49ers went to Seattle in week 2, Russell Wilson would just engineer long, methodical drives, and the 49ers defense ultimately broke in the fourth quarter because they tired out. Well, that's what's happening to the Seattle defense now. And the 49ers need to make sure that the tables don't turn back in Seattle's favor. One of the ways the 49ers can do that is by exposing the Seahawks offensive line again. The Seahawks, my friends, are not good along the line of scrimmage. Russell Wilson created a whole stink about this in the offseason. He wanted better pass protection. That's something that's hurt him throughout his entire career with Seattle. If you look at some of the analytics, especially from Pro Football Focus, they'll suggest that a lot of the sacks that Russell Wilson takes are his fault. But the point still stands. A lot of the sacks that Russell Wilson does take are not his fault. And I think that there's an overlap there. Once you start taking too many sacks that are your offensive line's fault, you start to get gun shy. You start to look at the pass rush. You're not really looking at DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Gerald Everett or whoever else you can throw to downfield. And because of that, because of the flighty eyes that are looking down back at the pass rush, because you're a little scared of how your offensive line has been protecting you, because of that, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you start getting sacked at the third highest rate in the league, which is exactly what's happening to Russell Wilson behind this Seattle offensive line. Dwayne Brown, the left tackle for the Seahawks, is a good player. He's probably the most talented player up front. Maybe Gabe Jackson, a right guard, he's good too. But Dwayne Brown is the player who Nick Bosa has already demonstrated a capability of beating. Bosa beat Dwayne Brown 2 or 3 times in the first meeting back in week 4. Now, if you remember, in that game, Seattle opened up going 0 for 5 on their drives. They didn't pick up a single first down. They went 3 and out 5 consecutive times. And the 49ers pass rush was absolutely overpowering early in that game against Seattle at Levi's Stadium. For a while, we thought that, oh, maybe the 49ers 2019 pass rush is back. It turns out, now that we have a bigger sample of data to examine regarding the 49ers D-line, it turns out that it's just the Seattle's O-line that really sucks. Now, there should be some hope for the 49ers pass rush. Bosa's one of the best players in football. People don't talk about him enough. Charles Omenihu has generated 3 pressures in his 3 games with the 49ers. You have to like what he's doing. Some of these other depth pieces, I mean, and Eric Armstead's not a depth piece, but he's been generating some pressure all season. But some of the other depth pieces, like Kevin Givens, for example, Sansom Ebukam has started to do a little bit more, but Kevin Givens was able to get into the backfield against Minnesota. You look at all these pieces and you look at the Seattle line and you say, these guys should get pressure against the Seattle line because everybody else is beating the Seattle line and getting pressure. So outside of Dwayne Brown and Gabe Jackson, I see weaknesses. At left guard, Damian Lewis is doubtful. Non-football injury. It's an illness. Not sure what it is, but Kyle Fuller would be his backup. And Kyle Fuller has already been benched at the center position for Seattle. So he's their top interior offensive lineman. Beyond Fuller, it'd be Dakota Shepley, who didn't make the 49ers final roster, but is with the Seahawks. So Dakota Shepley, just to give you an idea, a player who wouldn't even make the 49ers team at offensive line, and the 49ers have some depth issues themselves up front. Dakota Shepley is in line to play if there's an injury for the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. The center is Ethan Posic. Posic. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. It's Croatian, right? Croatian or Serbian. Ethan Posic. We'll go with Posic. And he has been terrible pass protecting this year. In fact, the pressure for the Seahawks against Russell Wilson has generally come right up the middle. So if you're DJ Jones, you try to go to work there. If you're Eric Armstead, you try to go to work there. If you're Arden Key, you try to go to work against the inside, against the guards and the center of this Seattle offense. But the 49ers must expose that offensive line again. They did a great job of that throughout the first half against Seattle in week 4. It didn't pay off because the offense and the special teams dropped the ball due to injuries and all this and all that later on. But don't get it twisted. The 49ers defensive line ate against Seattle's offensive line back in week 4, and we'll see if they can do that again. Key number 3, work on Jordan Brooks in coverage. Jordan Brooks, the Seattle linebacker in his second year, you can deceive his eyes. He doesn't have good eyes. Now, Bobby Wagner's Bobby Wagner. Don't try to pick on Bobby Wagner because he's an all-pro. He's a vet. He's, even if he is a step slower than he used to be, a little bit weaker than he used to be, why pick on Bobby Wagner when you could pick on Jordan Brooks? Jordan Brooks has given up a catch every 6 targets into his coverage this season, which is the most frequent catch allowance of any linebacker in football. He's also given up a quarterback rating of over 120 into his coverage. And I watched Jordan Brooks on tape. Quarterbacks are manipulating him with their eyes. And Jimmy Garoppolo is good at this. Jimmy Garoppolo is able to find outlets out of the backfield like Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, that's what the scheme dictates for the 49ers, right? Kyle Juszczyk is there to beat opposing linebackers. Think back to that 2018 game, the showdown in Seattle, right? Week 17, where the 49ers clinched the number 1 seed behind Dre Greenlaw. In that game, Jimmy Garoppolo did not throw a single incompletion in the second half. And one of his big completions was a third. I'm not sure if it was on third down or if it was on first down, but it was sure a backbreaker. I'm going to go back and watch the tape after this because it was impressive. They split Kyle Juszczyk out to the slot, and Kyle Juszczyk worked against Michael Kendricks, who was actually with the 49ers for a while this season but never played. And Kendricks had no chance against Kyle Juszczyk. And the 49ers and Garoppolo at the line of scrimmage identified that matchup, sent Juszczyk on the go route, and hit him with a nice deep ball down the sideline. It picked up like 35 to 40 yards, maybe even a little bit more, and was one of the 49ers' multiple touchdown drives in the second half that kept distance between them and the Seahawks. So you know that the Seahawks linebackers can be exposed in coverage. Kendricks isn't there anymore, but Jordan Brooks is. And the 49ers, the numbers, his eyes don't lie. The 49ers can work on Jordan Brooks in coverage, especially with no Deebo Samuel in this game. it's going to be important for auxiliary 49ers weapons to get involved. That's why I'm looking at Kyle Juszczyk, who had 2 big catches for them in the game against Minnesota, who's just a consistent contributor. Juszczyk, George Kittle, who only had 1 catch against Minnesota, but is getting healthier and healthier. If he's ever lined up against a linebacker, you can be sure the 49ers are going to go to him. They did back in 2019, and you can be sure it's going to happen again. But even if it's George Kittle against Jamal Adams is not good in coverage. Go after these Seattle defenders on the back 7 that simply, I don't think, can hang with whatever the 49ers throw at them receiving-wise, Deebo Samuel or not. Key number 4, continue hiding right tackle from pass protection. Today, Kyle Shanahan just came out and said it. He said that the 49ers favor Tom Compton over Jalen Moore at right tackle because Tom Compton has been a better run blocker. He's ahead of Jalen Moore in that facet of the game. And obviously the 49ers have a run-heavy offense. Well, as a team that prefers run blocking over pass blocking, and this is the case for all the 49ers offensive linemen, they're better at run blocking than pass blocking. You do your best to run the ball more often than you pass block, so you could really shield your offensive linemen from their weaknesses. Well, now that the 49ers don't have Mike McGlinchey and it's Tom Compton on that right side at right tackle, the gap between run blocking and pass protection is even bigger than it was before. And that means it's doubly important for the 49ers to shield themselves from pass protection. Shanahan essentially said that today when he said we've been able to hide from pass protection because Tom Compton is better at run blocking. So the 49ers need to continue hiding that right tackle position as much as possible. And that means running efficiently, converting third downs efficiently, doing what's been working for this 49ers team over the past few weeks. The other day I wrote about Jimmy Garoppolo. Is 2017 Jimmy Garoppolo back? The 49ers quarterback has been even more efficient over these 5 games than in 2021. And some of the data that we went through showed you just how much more efficient Garoppolo's been this year, which is impressive because he was good in 2017. And we also looked at how good he's been on third down with success rate and with expected points added per play. He's also been throwing further on third down, 9.6 air yards per attempt for those of you who like those stylistic stats. Well, with the kind of football that Garoppolo's been playing, it's allowed the 49ers to run a lot because they're moving the chains thanks to passing efficiency. Always remember, Garoppolo relies on the 49ers run game just as much as the 49ers run game relies on Jimmy Garoppolo. So you get that level of complementary football flowing with the pass game feeding the run game and vice versa. And that means that you can hide a player like Tom Compton at right tackle from pass protection. And it means that you can play this game on your terms against the Seattle defense that is bad in yardage. They've given up the most yards out of any defense in football, but they're good in the red zone. These guys don't blitz a lot, but they take chances on the back end. And a team that takes chances on the back end, you got to be patient, you got to be careful, and you have to make sure you didn't get blown up at certain parts of the field, including right tackle. So Jamal Adams is a boom or bust player at safety. You look across this entire defense. They have DJ Reed at one of the cornerback spots. He's been struggling, right? But DJ Reed has been opportunistic for Seattle against the 49ers in the past. In the 2020 season, it was all about those blitzes up the A-gap. That was because the 49ers were starting a third-string center in Hronis Grasu. I think with Alex Mack, they'll be better in that situation. So you won't see Seattle mercilessly, disrespectfully blitzing against the 49ers. But I do think that you're going to see them take chances on certain routes. I do think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to diversify the route tree to which he's throwing. I think that Seattle is going to be hanging on some of that stuff in the middle with the 49ers. I mean, they work for single high safety. I know Seattle does like to play a lot of single high safety under Pete Carroll. The 49ers feel that they can manipulate the middle of the field when that single high alignment is there for the defense. I do think that Seattle is going to try to gamble on some of that stuff in the middle of the field, even if the 49ers are manipulating it in this game. So it's important that the 49ers stay patient, go to what's underneath. Seattle still is a Pete Carroll coach team running that cover 3 a lot of the time. So stay underneath, take what's given to you, avoid the mistakes, and hide the weaknesses from the Seahawks. Because you have more strengths as the 49ers than the Seahawks have strengths defensively. The numbers say that, but the Seahawks have been able to be good on third down in the red zone for a reason. Because once they get teams backed up into that corner, they take chances, and those chances have generally paid off for them. But the Seahawks have been bad on first and second down for a reason defensively, and that's because they don't have the firepower to keep up with smart football teams. And over the past 3 weeks, the 49ers have been smart. Garoppolo's interception rate has been down to 1.5%, which is way below league average. 49ers need more of that. They need more good pass protection, and you get good pass protection when you run the football well behind a run block centered offensive line. So pass when you need to, run most of the time, set the tone, and I think the 49ers can hide whatever weakness they need to. Finally, the final key, we need to talk about Russell Wilson, because Wilson's been playing without the pin now in his finger. That's when he started playing 3 weeks ago, but he hasn't been playing good football over the time since his return from this surgery and this finger injury. But Russell Wilson can turn it on at any time. You saw it against Washington in that past game. Seahawks are dead to rights, backed up against their own goal line, but Russell Wilson pulls a rabbit out of his hat, drives the team down the field, and with a 2-point conversion, they would have tied that game. Even though Wilson has been inaccurate, and I think it's very clear that that finger is not 100% for Russell Wilson, even though he is airmailing some guys because he can't quite get the touch that he needs on the throw, because the football is coming off of that finger. It's right on the middle finger on the right hand. Even though that's happening, he could still pull that rabbit out of the hat, and something tells me that he's going to heal up really quickly before facing the 49ers this weekend. So pay attention to Russell Wilson. Stay disciplined against him. You have to set that edge, right? You can't rush undisciplined off the edge. That's up to Bosa. It's up to Arden Key. That's up to Amenehu. That's up to whoever is on the edge for the 49ers rushing a defensive end. You have to stay disciplined, because one thing I've noticed watching Russell on tape is he is looking to run a lot more now than before, because, almost out of panic, because he knows that offensive line isn't good, because he's not as confident throwing the ball. Well, if you're not disciplined against him, he'll take those yards. He'll get those 10 to 15 yard chunks, and you're going to be in trouble. Then guess what? Once Russell Wilson starts running, that's when he starts throwing generally. He's smart. He knows that if Seattle splits 3 wide out to the right side and they split 1 wide out to the left side in a 4 wide set, he knows he's going to try to run to that left side, even if it's the short side of the field, because all the defenders are going to be on the right side. So if you're not disciplined defensively with your pass rush, Russell Wilson is going to find some room to run. It goes without saying that the 49ers need to do a good job in coverage on DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, because if those guys get going, the Seattle offense can start looking a whole lot better than the one that's only averaged 9.3 points per game over the past 3 games. But it all starts with a disciplined rush of Russell Wilson, because it goes back to exposing Seattle's offensive line. It's not a good offensive line. You can expose them. You rush in a disciplined fashion. You don't worry as much about DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett if Wilson doesn't have time to find them. And then, of course, everything goes back to establishing a possession advantage, because the Seattle offense doesn't do anything. Russell Wilson doesn't do anything while they're on the sideline. I have one more key that I didn't make a banner for, and I'm going to make a banner right now, and I'm going to make a banner for it in all caps, because this is so important. And I've talked about it, but I think we need to emphasize it before we sign off and answer some questions. Special teams in all caps. Again, the 49ers lost in week 4 to Seattle because of special teams. I don't care about the quarterback situation. They were still good enough between Lance and Garoppolo in that game to win. It had their special teams not royally screwed that game up. The Seahawks have been good at special teams consistently since Pete Carroll took over. That's how the Legion of Boom initially made its rise, by excelling on special teams. I still remember Richard Sherman blocking and returning a field goal against the 49ers back in 2012. That was the game where he patted Jim Harbaugh on the rear end there after the game, and the Seahawks just destroyed the 49ers in that season. Maybe it was early 2013. Either way, there were a couple games that turned ugly there up in the Pacific Northwest, and it was because the 49ers failed on special teams. They failed on special teams in week 4 against Seattle. You can bet that a Pete Carroll team is going to be able to bring it on special teams. They're going to bring it in the red zone. They're going to bring it at critical marginal junctures. And the 49ers have to make sure that they perform there at least better than they did about 2 months ago when they lost 14 expected points on special teams. It wasn't good. So those are the keys. 49ers are favored. They need to be able to execute those keys, and they're going to win the game. Let's take a look at some questions. Whatever happened to Jordan Willis? I mean, Jordan Willis has always been a rotational defensive end. He was suspended for those first 6 games. He's a project. 49ers are trying to glean some productivity out of him, but don't hold your breath for too much. I think Arden Key is the more promising project this season, especially when he rushes from the inside. Terrence says, this feels like more of a trap game than the Jags. Seahawks have had our number like we do with the Rams, and divisional games are always weird. I think it's absolutely a trap game, but the thing is, it's such a big trap game that the trap is sitting there right in front of you. I think everybody knows it's a trap. And if you look at the way that Kyle Shanahan was talking today, this is a great quote from Kyle Shanahan. You know that he sees this as a trap as well. So it's an obvious trap. But Shanahan said they have the 32nd ranked defense in yards. So people talk about their defense being bad. They have a top 10 defense, in my opinion. So Shanahan is not falling for any traps. He thinks the Seahawks are a top 10 defense. They're ranked 7th in points. They're ranked 2nd in giving up explosives. They're ranked 8th in third down. I think they're ranked 4th in red zone. All the things that really matter, they're top 8 at. And obviously, Russell Wilson's on the other side. So the 49ers aren't taking that for granted. I know Gold was a pro in 2019, but it seems his injury has been lingering. Should the Niners consider moving on in this upcoming draft? Well, the problem with Robbie Gold is that he's under a guaranteed contract for a couple more seasons with the 49ers, fully guaranteed. So before they even think about moving on, he's going to have to miss more than just one kick against Minnesota. And, that's the extent of the struggle so far this year. It was one kick against Minnesota. He was injured earlier. Yes, that hurts. But when he's been out there, he's been fine. And here's the thing about Robbie Gold. He has yet to miss a game-winning kick at the buzzer. And the 49ers have had several of those opportunities since Robbie Gold came in 2017 with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. So he's still money in those situations. And remember when the 49ers had Chase McLaughlin against Seattle in week 10? Remember when he kicked it into the tunnel? Straight into the tunnel. That one went like 8 yards or more than 8 yards, probably 20 yards wide. Well, that's the alternative. Guys off the street aren't that good in the highest of the clutch situation, the highest of the high stakes situations. So at the end of the day, Robbie Gold, yes, not great that he missed last week, but it's only one miss. So let's pump the brakes on that talk for a little while. This is kind of funny. All my Jimmy G hater friends say that you're a Jimmy sexual, lol. They all mad because they have no answer to your rebuttals. I mean, that's the extent of it. People try to give me a hard time online. They have to make everything up when they attack me online. So there was an attack last night, and I just said, literally everything that you said is untrue. They said that I didn't understand advanced stats. I'm basically the biggest advanced stat writer on the 49ers, and I'm working with the guys that make these advanced stat websites like Ben Baldwin to get a lot of this data. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I understand advanced stats. I didn't study. I did actually. I'll take that back. There was AP calculus in high school. I hated math. Let's be honest. I absolutely hated math. But I did take a statistics class at Stanford, and that helped me a lot with some of this stuff. But to be honest, I love doing this stuff. I understand advanced stats. You can try to slander me all you want because you don't like Jimmy Garoppolo, because I don't even understand what the Jimmy Garoppolo hatred's all about. The guy's either playing well or he's not. He's playing well right now. I watch every single game of Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously. He's been accurate. He's been more accurate than the average NFL quarterback. The problem with people who don't understand perspective, don't really understand football regarding Jimmy Garoppolo, just put it bluntly, is that they don't fairly compare him to other QBs in the league. There are missed throws everywhere. There are interceptions everywhere. Well, guess what? Jimmy Garoppolo is making less of those right now. Fewer missed throws, fewer interceptions than the average NFL quarterback, to the point where he's been, we'll put it back up here, the most efficient guy in the league over the past 5 games. So go ahead and check out that piece, check out that video. But yeah, the fact of the matter is that people that think that I somehow irrationally support Jimmy Garoppolo, they're just so far off the deep end into hating Jimmy Garoppolo without any data, without any actual substantive reason, that they are just hopelessly stuck in their bias. That's why I say drop the bias. Drop the bias and you will see the truth. Is this finally the River Craycraft breakout game? No. I know you're saying this because Deebo Samuel's going to be out, but I think Travis Benjamin has a better chance of playing and doing stuff than River Craycraft. Let's see. What else do you guys have? What exactly do you think needs to be emphasized in special teams for improvement? Tackling. I mean, they did miss a tackle or two, but you just have to be in your assignment for kick coverage, and then obviously you can't fumble like Trenton Cannon did against the Seahawks in Week 4. So stay on your coverage assignment, hold on to the football, make your field goal if you're Robbie Gould. I do think that Eric Armstead is making a difference on the interior. I think that Eric has been impressive on the interior. He's better on the interior than he is on the exterior as far as pass rushing goes. But on those base downs, the 49ers were getting washed out. The tackles were getting washed out outside of DJ Jones. It wasn't pretty, especially when Maurice Hurst hurt. And he had a setback, so he won't play. But they had to cut Zach Kerr because he wasn't getting the job done. On those early downs, you need a presence on the inside. And Eric Armstead can give you that presence on the inside. The 49ers, by the way, this is a good stat for you. Let me find this one. This is in my game preview, which is right up here. The 49ers, and this is not only because of the defense, but there's some of that there. From weeks 1 to 9, the 49ers allowed 131.6 rush yards per game. Over the past 3 weeks, they've allowed only 57.7 rush yards per game. That's down from number 26 in the NFL, or up from number 26 in the NFL to number 1. Now, obviously, time of possession, as you could see here, the 49ers absolutely hogging the ball. That is, of course, going to help you defensively, right? 38 minutes of possession compared to only 19 minutes of possession for the Seahawks. But this right here, this kind of improvement in run defense also requires you to be playing better personnel-wise on the inside. And for that reason, Eric Armstead teaming up with DJ Jones on the inside has been big for the 49ers. When they lost Javon Kinlaw, the 49ers lost a big part of what they hope to do this season. They hope that Javon Kinlaw would be that stuffer on the inside. He'd be that plug, big dude on the inside. I mean, if you look at Javon Kinlaw, he looks like a pillar of granite, right? He's hard to move. And the goal was to have him create a positive domino effect on the inside. He's hurt for the season, had that ACL surgery. It's Eric Armstead's job to do that now. And I think the improvement I just outlined has been in large part because of Eric Armstead moving in. All right, guys. Azeez Al-Shaair, this is big. I haven't mentioned that the 49ers will probably miss Fred Warner. Fred Warner's the quarterback of the defense. I think that Azeez is ready for it. I mean, he's more of a Mike linebacker than a weak side linebacker. At Florida Atlantic in college, his final year, Azeez Al-Shaair had, 154 tackles. So he's used to having the radio in his helmet. He has it in his helmet every day at practice. He did a good job down the stretch for the 49ers against Minnesota. So it's up to Azeez to fill in for Fred Warner, although there's a small chance that Fred Warner plays. He had his helmet on at practice today. He's going to do everything he can. If Fred Warner doesn't play in this game, it'll be the first time in 65 games. No, more than 65. No, 65 games that Fred Warner has. No, is this his 4th season? Yeah, I think 60. Yeah, this will be the first time in 64 or 65 games that Fred Warner has not played in the NFL. So he's been Mr. Durability. He's going to do everything he can to get out there on the field. I saw him at practice today. He was doing his stretches with the trainers in his helmet. He's listed as doubtful. Deebo Samuel's listed as out. But if Fred can't go for the first time in his NFL career, it is up to Azeez Al-Shaair right up the middle. So it's going to be good stuff. The 49ers also, with this linebacker shortage, should Talanoa Hufanga use more like Marcel Harris? He rarely covers tight ends and running backs. Hufanga is still learning how to cover. He did a great job against Tyler Conklin on that breakup against the Minnesota Vikings. So as Hufanga gets better in coverage, as the 49ers trust him more, you'll see more of those 3 safety sets with Hufanga acting as a de facto rover and third linebacker. But let's take a look at the depth chart for the 49ers in this game and who's on the injury report, because I highlight those guys in red. You zoom in here a little bit, you see most of the problems are in the linebacker room. Fred Warner, Trey Greenlaw, and Marcel Harris. That means you only have 2 linebackers on the 53, and Azeez Al-Shaair and Flanagan Fowles, who are ready to plug in right away. Do you call up Terrell Adams or Justin March? Maybe for special teams purposes, but they're on the practice squad. So the way that you overcome that is right here. I'll highlight him. Talanoa Hufanga. He can move into that third safety / third linebacker spot in non-base situations. K'Wan Williams in heavy nickel situations. Hell, sometimes you could even go with the ultra defensive back package, right? Your dime package where you have Talanoa Hufanga and K'Wan Williams out on the field for the 49ers. So D'Amico Ryan's going to get creative in this game, and I think that's one of the ways that you overcome the absence of Fred Warner, the absence of Dre Greenlaw, and the potential absence of Marcel Harris, who's still in concussion protocol. All right, guys, good questions. I'm happy to have answered almost all of them. I'm getting tired of talking. It's been 35 minutes. It's been a good game preview. So make sure that you keep the keys in mind. Score first is the biggest one for the 49ers. I think the 49ers win this game 24-17. All right, everybody, keep it real. Keep it objective. That's all we're doing. We're not trying to be trolls, toxic trolls online. We're just trying to keep it objective regarding Jimmy Garoppolo. And we're trying to keep our analysis smart because most of the analysis out there is pretty stupid. So we'll keep it smart. We'll continue with a good week of content. If you missed any of the stuff this week, make sure that you check it out. This is the game preview. This is the Jimmy Garoppolo article. He's playing as well as he did in 2017 as far as efficiency goes. This is inside the 49ers opportunistic defense. Garoppolo's going to have to lead the way with that offense, especially without Deebo Samuel. Here's your 49ers depth chart. And then, of course, make sure that you check out my video with Greg Papa. Greg Papa came on the show this week, and it was an hour and a half of big-time football fun. So that's on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss those videos. Make sure you check out The Athletic. I'll post a couple of the articles in the comment section here. And if you're in Seattle and you see me, make sure you say hi. I'm going to be around town. So enjoy the weekend. Enjoy 49ers Seahawks. And I will talk to you all later. Everybody have a good weekend. Take care.